Hi, COVID friends. Girls and guys, we're doing odd and neither today. And it all kind of comes together. And a lot of people say that by the end of this period, they felt like, well, now I totally get how to do this. But there's a few things I want to point out. One is I had a little whining yesterday. Marina, some, actually it was also James Outbacker, who was saying, why can't I just write odd, even, or neither? Why do you have to make me show this little proof thing? And I'll be honest, the proof thing, the explanation is the actual math, right? Because really, odd, even, or neither, it's you got a 1/3 chance of getting it right just by writing some word down. So the part that we're getting to is getting practice with explaining why. And the reason we do this is because you have all chosen a class called pre-calculus. So about 1/3 to 1/2 of you are going to take calculus. And a lot of calculus isn't necessarily, the answer is 7. The answer is, here is why it is 7. When we do trig identities in here, you're going to know the answer already. Your job will be to explain how you got there, right? So that's kind of where we're heading. We're just starting a little nice and slow and saying, okay, I know it's odd, or I know it's even, or I know it's neither. And I'm going to give you some shortcuts to actually know the answer before you start. But then that's going to give you a good idea of how to prove that, right? And it turns out if you do it and it doesn't work, either you've made a mistake or you were wrong. So today we're going to talk about odd, and then we're going to talk about neither. But let's start here. On your piece of paper, could you make a little coordinate plane, just a little baby one? And do me a favor, draw one of these bad boys that looks, oh, come here you. Draw this bad boy that looks something like that. That is an odd function, because if you remember what odd functions are, they're the ones that spin around the origin, right? So they are symmetric around the origin. They spin. There are little spinny dudes. And the reason I want you to put that up here is I want to show you when we're doing this tonight, if I plug in, say, 3, and I get 2, if it is indeed spinnable, then it means when I plug in -3, I should get the opposite answer, which is -2, right? So sometimes when we do math, we do things and it looks totally scary. Like this looks like crazy town, right? It's like, what the hell does this even mean? And what this means is this. If I plug in a number like 2 into a problem and I get 7, if I plug in the opposite number, if it's odd, I should get the opposite answer. That's what this is telling us. It's saying when we plug in the opposite number, we should get the opposite answer. That's all it means, right? So it looks all crazy and it looks like some kind of foreign language. Like, what does that mean? It means that if it's an odd function, so let's start this real quick. If it's an even function, if I plug in the opposite answer, I get the same opposite number, I get the same answer. And if it's odd, I plug in the opposite number, I get the opposite answer, right? That's the definition. So we're going to start by getting our brains ready to get with this by doing one mathematically. We're just going to do a little baby problem with some baby math. So here you go. Write that bad boy down. That is our function that we're going to say, is that bad boy odd, even, or nothing? Yeah. The origin. Odd problems spin around the origin. They that means they're the spinny ones to win. So let's try this with numbers, because for me, I understand things better with numbers than with letters. So here's what I want to do. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to do this, and I want you to plug in just 2. Just plug in 2, right? Nice and easy. And if you're like, really? That's all we're doing is plugging in 2? Yes, that's all I want you to do. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to say 3 times 2. That gives me 6. Now, here's how this is going to work tonight. I am now going to plug in the opposite of 2. If I get 6 again, it's even. If I get -6, it's odd. And if I get 329, it's nothing, right? So that's what we're doing tonight. We're now plugging in the opposite number, and we're going to see what happens, right? So I take it, and I go 3, and I get -2 times 3. I get -6. Right on. That baby is odd, right? Now, it would be so nice if we could just use numbers the whole time, but because things can change and we can't plug in every possible number, we got to do this with letters. And that's what we're doing. So here we go. We're going to do like 3 or 4 examples, and you're going to be like, easy. I got this, Miss T. So here we go. Here comes our first one. We're going to do this one with letters, right? We're going to see if it's odd or even or if it's nothing, right? If it's even, at the end, our answer should look just like that. But if it's odd, here's what it should look like. That sign should change, and that sign should change, because that is the opposite, right? Both things change. So let's try it, and let's see, do we get this? Do we get this? Or do we get neither one, right? So let's do it. F of, now, some of you are pros, and you're just going to plug in that. But some of you are like me, and you like to have an additional step in there because those negatives bug you a little bit. And if you're one of those people like me and you want to take it as a second step, right on for you, right? Don't judge me and call me a baby. Shut up. I don't make mistakes, right? So here I go. I'm going to say -1x to the third minus 6 times -1x. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this like this because it's easier for me. Do you have to do all these steps? You don't. But if that makes the math clearer for you, do it, right? You do what works for you. So watch what happens here. Oops, I forgot the third there. I'm going to get -1 times -1 times -1 is -1 x to the third. Ooh, that's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty opposite. Negative and a negative is a positive. Look at that. He is completely opposite of that guy. His first number changed, his second number changed. He's completely opposite, so he is odd. He's odd. How is that? That's what we're doing, right? Okay. No. We're good. Okay. Try this one. Now, some of you are getting pretty smart, and some of you are going to be looking at it and it's like, Miss T, I kind of got this. It's got odd exponents, it's going to be odd. And if it's got even exponents, it's going to be even. So I already know the answer. Give it a try. You know, 3 seconds once everyone has this turned up. Okay, Jordan, you ready?
Neither signs are opposite, whatever he said.
Jordan, can I go back?
Lower the volume.
So here's what. I would be tempted, if I was in a rush, to call this odd. And I'd say that's an odd exponent. And that's an odd number, so this bad boy must be odd. But let's see what happens. F of -1x. I'm going to make that -1 to the third, x to the third, minus 5. So I'm going to get -1 to the third, or -x to the third, yay. Oh, but look at that. The 5 doesn't change. And I needed it to change. So it doesn't stay the same, and it doesn't turn opposite. It's a big giant neither. And I'm going to show you why mathematically. This actually has an exponent. It's x to the 0. And we refer to that as even. So because we have a combination of some odd, some even, it's a big nothing. It's a big nothing. So sometimes you got to be careful. How about this bad boy? How about this bad boy? And again, if you're getting good at these, you should be able to tell just by eyeballing them what the answer is going to be, and then make sure your proof shows that, right? That's our goal. It shouldn't be that we're getting these right or wrong. It's that we are able to convince me on a test Yeah, I know what it is. Here's one. If you sat next to me in the movie theater, I'd smack you.
Huh?
But you know what? You'd smack me because I'm one of those loud talkers. No, I hate when people are eating food at the thing. Oh, I did, yeah. But I'm one of those people who thinks, like, clearly I talk really loud, but I don't think that I talk really loud. So it's like, hey, is that the same guy with the dog? It's like, Mom, shut up. I'm like, I'm whispering. They're like, you're not. So yeah, I have no room to talk. Here we go, f of negative x. And if you're getting good at these and you want to leave that negative 1 out, you do you. I'm going to leave it in because it makes me happy because I have a small life. Because it's going to show up really clear in a second here what's going to happen. Okay, so here I go. That's going to be negative 1x to the third, or just negative x to the third. But negative and a negative become positive, x squared, and then negative x. I need everything to change. I got the first guy changing. I got the last guy changing, but the middle guy doesn't change. So that's a neither. It's a neither. So here's ready to write some good notes down, some actual notes. There are some shortcuts. Here's my issue with the teachers who teach this by shortcut is that there are two places where the shortcuts don't work, and because it's pre-calculus, we're going to talk about those. But here we go. I would like you to write this down. Number 1 shortcut. If all the exponents are even, it's obviously going to be even, right? Yay. Shortcut number 2 is if all the exponents are odd, it's going to be odd. If it's a mix, it is neither, but here's what's important. If it's got a constant in there, that counts as even, right? So remember on this one, we have that 5 that was there. That makes it an even. It doesn't change its sign. So be careful on that. Now, a lot of pre-calc and algebra 2 trig teachers teach this, and they stop here. But there are 2 places where these shortcuts don't work. And I'm going to be honest, I have to do them. Here, I'll move this up a little bit. I have to do them by hand. And here's where I have to do them by hand. Because if I don't, I make a mistake. The 2 important conditions are this. Number 1, that's most important. I'm going to write it right here. Hold on a second. I got to move this dude. Come here, little dude. You got to move. There you go. First thing is, fractions and square roots. Those ones are weird and they don't always follow the rules. So we're going to do those ones. We're not going to guess, right? We're not going to be like, I know it's going to be odd and I'm just going to make it odd because it might fool you. If you remember yesterday, we did one and everyone's like, yeah, that's even. And it's like, no, it's not. Same thing here. And the other thing is I'm going to talk about this negative fraction thing. Hold on a minute. We're going to talk about that right this minute. Okay, so fractions and square roots. They are weird. So let's talk about this first. Here's what. We have a tendency to think to make something opposite, we got to make its parts opposite. But watch this. I have the fraction 1/2, and I want to make it opposite, right? So this is what I would be tempted to do. -1 over -2. That would be the opposite of 1/2. True or not true? Not true, because what happens to those negatives? They cancel out, they become positive. So when we need to make a fraction opposite, only the top needs to change or the bottom needs to change, but not both. Because if you change everything, it becomes even, right? So check this out. We're going to do this one. If I want it to be odd, either I'm going to get this as my answer, or I'm going to get this as my answer. Does that make sense? Either I change the top and leave the bottom alone, or I change the bottom and leave the top alone. Because with fractions, we don't have to do both, right? Fractions are weird, which is why when I look at that, I am tempted to say, oh, Miss T, that's an odd and that's even. So that's a neither. I'd like you to do it. I'd like you to figure out what this bad boy is. Is he odd? Is he even? Is he neither? I'm going to tell you right now, he's not neither. Give him a try. I'll move him up here. But this would have been one of those ones if you're thinking, oh, she taught the shortcut. Yeah, I got different degrees, so it's neither. It's like, fractions trick you, not gonna lie. So when I do fractions, I just do it slow because I can't guess at where I'm headed. I have to do it and figure it out. Here I go. Look at that bad boy. Man, he would have tricked me. He is odd. He is odd. And here's why. Because I did change one thing on the top, and that's all I had to do, right? I either had to change one thing on the top or both things on the bottom, but not all three. I might have a problem later tonight. I got kids missing it, and they're like, they got this as an answer, and they're like, that's neither. And I'm like, nope, that is something. Can anyone tell me that's different than this? I'm just making this up real quick. Can anyone tell me if I had gotten that answer, what would that be? Is that odd, even, or nothing? Liam, tell me why. Yeah, exactly. I'm changing this guy and this guy and this guy, which means I could do this, right? I could change them all three, which changes it to even. Nicely done. Yeah.
The bottom was negative and the top was positive, or -2.
So let's see. This would be right. So tell me what to put where.
So if it was a -x and a -x squared plus 4.
Nothing. Because either everything changes or just one thing on the top changes. Does that make sense? But because I don't have everything changing down here, it's going to kick it out. Good question. Last one is the trickiest, and then we're done. Okay, here we go. Last part, best part. I have 3 problems up here, and these are challenging. I will not put these probably on a test. I might put this one on a test. These are going to make your brain hurt a little bit. Welcome to Pre-Calc Honors. This is what they do in there. So I'm going to tell you right from the start, and then I'm going to do them. I got an odd one up here. I got an even one up here. I got a neither up here. I want to see if you can find which is which. A little bit tricky. This one's a little bit tricky. And I'm going to do it. And like I said, I'm probably not going to test you on it. I just want you to show you, especially for my friends who are heading to Calc next year, when we have root problems, we have to be careful. We have to be careful. Okay. Are you allowed? Do they, like, for a while, they, like, were like, there's some kids, we don't want to go to the bathroom. Are you one of those? Yeah, you're so good. You're like a new student. You don't have 5,000 faculty. Just put it right there. That way I can see your pretty little face.
Oh, you told me 3 and a half.
You are pretty. Here I go. Looks to me like the first one, I got even. We all feel confident on that? Everyone's feeling like, yeah, I got back to where I started from. Okay, that seems pretty good. Okay, next one's going to get a little dicey. We're gonna see what happens on that next one. So I am going to come over here, and I'm going to say this. F of -1x goes in, and this is going to make your brains hurt a little bit. I'm going to go 5. I'm going to go -1 to the 3rd. I'm going to go x to the 3rd. Everyone cool with that? Have I lost anybody on that? Yeah? Okay, watch what happens here. I'm going to say -5 times -1, -5x to the 3rd. Now I'm tempted to say, hey, those are opposites. They are not. Because when I have, oh, this is last year, when I have a negative in a square root, what does that come out as? It comes out as an I. So this bad boy doesn't look like this. He looks like this. And that's not the opposite. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Almost always when we have square roots, they cannot be odd. It is very rare unless I have stuff outside, right? If I don't have an X outside, almost always, I'm not going to be able to have odd. That's because of that stupid I thing keeps popping up. Now, the reason I put that last one on, which will not show up on a test, is that on cube roots, negatives are okay. So watch what happens on this last one. Let's see if I can erase this. Jordan, can I erase the whole thing? Is that okay? Am I going to freak you out? Oh, yeah. Okay. I just always want to make sure. Yeah. 2 is a neither. 2 is my neither. Now watch what happens here. So I'm going to say F negative 1x. And I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing carefully. I'm going to go here. 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 Check this out. I can take out the negative 1. There are 3 of them. And it's a cube root. So I am allowed to pull the negative out. So this bad boy is actually odd. Will he show up on a test? No. But if you want to brag to your pre-calc honors friends and be like, I know how to do that one, then yay for you. Look, my COVID friends, I'm turning it off in time. Goodbye. Goodbye.